Welcome back, everybody, to the Glacier Gamble. I hope you enjoyed the first episode. Welcome. This is episode 2. To start this episode off, we're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs. The Bucks just beat the Hawks, finished them off without Giannis. The Hawks didn't have Trey. So now the finals are going to be the Bucks versus the Suns, just like we talked about last episode. Doesn't look like Giannis is going to be going back into the lineup, so unfortunately it will be one team without their best player, and the other team is almost fully healthy except for one or two role players. Right now, the big key matchups without Giannis, it looks like it's going to be Ayton and Cam Johnson versus Lopez and Tucker. I think that's a huge mismatch. You have Ayton and Cam that are more of well-rounded players, while you have Lopez and Tucker, which one is a hardcore defensive player, and the other one is more of just a shooting big, who showed at the last couple games against the Hawks. Lopez showed that he could actually go down low and be a bruiser. I don't think he'll be able to match up well with Ayton. I think Ayton's too agile to be stopped by Lopez, so Tucker might have to guard him, which then he's undersized. Cam Johnson, another one. It looks like the Suns just outmatched the Bucks, which I think a lot of people are predicting. A lot of people are saying that it's going to be a mismatch in terms of a heavy favor towards the Suns. The Suns' top two players are Booker and Chris Paul, which right now without Giannis, the Bucks, their top two offensive players look like it's going to be Middleton and Drew Holiday. When you compare those two, again, it's not really close. Booker is better than Middleton, Paul is better than Holiday. Yeah, when you have your top four players are all better on one side, I would guess the Suns are going to win it in 5. I say 5 because the Bucks will probably have one game where Middleton shoots 70% or 60% and he just goes off, and that's going to be one of those same games where the Suns don't do well. The Suns have been playing pretty inconsistently, and because of that, I could see them getting one game. Plus, sweeps aren't as fun. I think a 5-game series isn't as great as 7, obviously, but, I still think it'll be Suns in 5. The Suns in 4 guy probably thinks Suns in 4, but I would go with Suns in 5 just because they just seem like the better team overall, and without Giannis, there really is no hard mismatch that they have to worry about. Middleton can be shut down. Yeah, Suns in 5. That's our final prediction there. Not a ton about NBA playoffs. I don't think it's going to be a very watched playoff. It'll be good numbers, but it won't be great numbers, and more people are going to watch on Twitter or the highlights. So, Suns in 5. Continuing with the basketball news, Dennis Schroeder came out saying that he would like 4 years at $100 million, or he would like 5 years at $120 million. I don't know any team that's going to be willing to give Dennis Schroeder that amount of money. I was going through all of the teams. Yes, the Lakers might be able to retain him for that amount, but that would kind of ruin their chances at getting good role players, and it would kind of ruin their ability to continue their success that they had 2 years ago. Let's see, I said the Knicks would be maybe a good matchup. However, they have Quickly, and I think they want to see what he can do. So why would they sign Schroeder and hurt Quickly's development? So unless they think that Quickly is just not coming along and that he should be on the bench, they won't be able to sign Schroeder. The Heat, if they can't re-sign Oladipo, might go for Schroeder. I just don't know if he's going to get the 100 or 120 million. But yeah, the Heat might be another one of those. They are looking for different people to trade for. They are looking for people that they want some more stars. I don't think Schroeder's the level of player that they're looking for. The Celtics might be another team that could get Schroeder. I know Kemba didn't really live up to what they want, and Smart is really a defensive guy and could be a good role player as well as Schroeder. So again, you're not signing Schroeder to be on the bench. I just don't see the Celtics doing it either. So maybe not the Celtics. Yeah, it's just too hard to find a team. But speaking of the Heat looking for people, they are apparently going after Kawhi. The Mavericks and the Heat are hard pushing for Kawhi. I don't like it. I think Miami needs a lot more than just Kawhi, and Jimmy Butler had the worst playoffs of any player this year that was in it, at least. Yeah, he was the worst player this year in the playoffs, and so I don't think Kawhi, especially for what you'd have to give up to get him, I don't think that is going to put together and push the Heat to where they need to be. They're a really good regular season team, and I think with Kawhi, they would again be a great regular season team, but you don't know if Jimmy and Kawhi will both have what it takes to keep going in the playoffs. They might be gassed. Kawhi might be injured. He's regularly injured lately, and just kind of his whole career. So yeah, I don't think Kawhi is going to the Heat or the Mavericks, and I don't think the Heat would grab somebody like Schroeder or Kawhi. I think it makes more sense for them to get Schroeder just because it fits their current roster mold better. Kawhi makes them a better team, but again, in the playoffs, is that really going to lead to success? I think Kawhi needs to stay a Clipper if he wants his highest chance of success. There was rumors of him meeting up with LeBron and trying to join the Lakers, but his best chance of success is going to be with staying with the Clippers and having the Clippers build a better team around him. They only have a few players that are still going to be under contract, and it's a super deep NBA free agent market. They can dip into the free agent market. Obviously, they might not be able to mesh in one season that we've seen in the past. People need longer than a season. Can't just throw pieces together. But with how talented and deep the free agent market is, especially with some of these veterans that are coming out, I think the Clippers would be able to put together a team. And if you're open to trading, that's also meshing a team together. So I would rather build the team around Kawhi in free agency, and I think you'd be able to find better success there. Another player that is looking for a different team, or people are looking for, is Dame. We talked about Dame last episode again. He stated that he would like to go to the Jazz or the Lakers, or at least it was rumored that those were the two teams he'd like to go to. The Lakers were expected by everyone. I think a lot of people, just like with the Patriots and NFL free agency, people are assuming, hey, they're always gonna go to the Patriots and they're always gonna want to go to the Lakers. Well, everybody expected him to want to go to the Lakers, and that kind of came out that that's true. The Lakers, I was looking at their cap situation, and the only way they would be able to make a trade would be KCP, Kuzma, and Montrezl Harrell if he picked up his player option. If he doesn't pick up his player option, they don't really have any players besides Anthony Davis that they'd be able to make the trade for now. And then if that's the case, they'd have to sign free agents and then wait till the mid-trade deadline or the midway through the season point where they're allowed to trade new additions to be able to get Dame, and then that's not going to lead to success. So I think the Lakers would have a really difficult time trading for Dame. Plus, the Blazers probably don't want to trade him to a Western team. Yes, you want to do what's right for somebody who's stayed with your team for so long, but I don't think Dame is going to end up as a Laker. It just seems very difficult. If they are able to pull that off, I think that's phenomenal, just because you would never expect Dame to end up with LeBron and AD. If he does end up there, I wouldn't be surprised if AD is one of the people gone, or if they readjust Kuzma's, or they give Kuzma an extension that changes his salary cap. I was looking at it, their salary cap situation. It is difficult. It has to be KCP, Harrell, or it has to be KCP, Gasol, basically every player they have on contract except for AD and LeBron, just to make the salary caps work. So go ahead and check that out. It's actually very difficult for them. However, the Jazz, it's easy. They have 3 or 4 different combinations of 2 to 3 separate players that all works out salary cap wise. They could trade Bogdanovich, they can trade Clarkson, they can trade Royce O'Neal. Any combination of Bogdanovich, O'Neal, Clarkson, Bogdanovich, any of those works for both teams salary cap wise. So again, that's a Western team. I don't think the Blazers want to play against Dame all the time, but if you are going to trade him to the West, the Jazz would be the easiest ones, and they have picks that they can move on from. So you can get a lot in return for Dame. Plus, you have some good. Royce O'Neal, in my opinion, is a great wing defender. Probably one of the more underrated ones. Not one of the most, but he's a very underrated defender. Clarkson was 6th man of the year, and Bogdanovich has proven to be quite a well-rounded player. Not some great star, but a good player to have on your team. I think the Jazz are a great option to trade, and I believe that if Dame were to go to a Western team, that's probably where he's going to go, especially because that's one of the ones he listed. And if they do want to be a good team and send a good message to players that want to go to the Blazers should probably send him to a place that he said he wanted to go. Other big news of teams that are looking to move on from their stars: Ben Simmons, again, we talked about him. The Sixers turned down a trade offer of Brogdon and a first-round pick from the Pacers for Ben Simmons. So does this mean that the Sixers are looking for more picks, or are they looking for better players? Are they looking to keep Simmons and they're not looking to trade him at all? Brogdon's actually a really good defender and a better scorer, or probably a better shooter, not necessarily scorer, than Simmons. Simmons proved he doesn't want to score in the playoffs, and I think this playoffs really hurt his value. So a lot of people are saying he needs to be worth 4 or 5 first-round picks. I don't know if the rest of the league views him that way, but I think if you turn down somebody like Brogdon, who's still fairly young, he's a good all-around player, he's going to provide better scoring in the playoffs. He can guard the guards as well as Simmons, but he can't guard the bigs and wings like Simmons can. So I think that's a big difference, especially in the East where you're going against Kevin Durant and Harden. Simmons is going to be able to shut them down better than Brogdon is. I just don't know what it means for them. The fact that they turned that down is pretty big news. I think it's more of a sign that they are looking for a current star to pair with Embiid. They're looking for somebody obviously on the levels of like a Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, like one of those superstars. They're not going to get that for Ben Simmons. They're going to get a Brogdon level player plus a load of picks, or a Brogdon level player and only a couple picks and maybe a rotational player. I think those are the best outcomes for the Sixers. The longer it goes on, the more teams can sit down and analyze the playoffs that Ben Simmons had. I think it lowers the value of what teams are willing to give up. So the Sixers should be openly looking to trade him. We'll see where that ends up, but I thought that was pretty interesting that they turned that down. That was reported by Jason Dumas. Just want to give him his credit that trade was turned down. Lastly, in the NBA news, should the Nets trade for Kyrie Irving? I saw that a lot of people were talking about how Kyrie wasn't necessary, that the Nets were able to get extremely far, and they almost beat the team that's in the finals in the Bucks with Giannis, and that was without Kyrie. If they had a big or a wing that could have been paired with their team and have Harden be the primary point guard, that team would probably be more well-rounded. This is what's all been being talked about. I agree. I think if they traded Kyrie for a big, that would be a better thing for their team. However, I was looking around the league and there's nobody that would be a great fit, or there's nobody that you would want to take in Kyrie, which means you don't have a starting point guard or shooting guard it means you have a point guard or shooting guard that you're willing to replace, and has a young, talented big that either is a great scorer or a great defender or an elite wing defender that you're willing to get rid of in place of Kyrie, and both teams are happy. I couldn't find anything. The best thing I could find was Ben Simmons. That was Kyrie for Ben Simmons, and then the Sixers think Ben Simmons is the next best, probably the best defender ever, and that might not be the case. So they want a load of picks, and they were probably going to say, oh, give us Kyrie and a first, Kyrie and a couple picks, and then the Nets would be like, no, you're getting Kyrie Irving, one of the best ball handlers and scorers in the league. You need to give us Simmons and a pick. And then if you say straight up, all the conversation is going to be, oh, is Ben Simmons really isn't worth Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving scores 20-some points a game, and he shows up in the playoffs, and he's clutch. Ben Simmons is just a defender. I think that trade itself seems like the best trade for both teams fit-wise, makes both teams better. You're going east to east, which is never ideal for the teams, but that's the only one that really makes sense, and it's the only one that I could honestly see happening if they trade Kyrie, which is why I don't think they will trade Kyrie Irving. I think they'll run it back. This team was built by KD and Kyrie, so I think KD would be kind of backstabbing Kyrie if he were to say, yeah, get rid of him. Obviously, it's not his choice. So yeah, if Kevin Durant tells you to trade Kyrie, you do it. But I don't see that happening. He likes Kyrie. They built this team together. He's not a snake like everybody calls him. So it's not like he's going out there trying to scheme getting rid of his friends. I don't see Kyrie moving on. Yeah, that'll be it for the NBA news today. A little bit shorter than last time, but again, we're down to the last round of playoffs, so it makes sense. All right, and we had a little bit of NCAA news. The name, image, likeness came out, where players in college will now be able to profit off of their name, their image, and their likeness. So they can charge for autographs if they show up. If they show up for a show, make an appearance, try to promote an event, they can charge for that now and actually make money on it, which I think is awesome. Great for them. It's a step in the right direction. The player's eventual goal was to get a base salary. I think that's a long ways out just because of the logistics that goes into how many do you pay all division athletes? How much do you pay the players that are in football as opposed to the players that are on the wrestling team or volleyball team? You just don't know. I think the logistics of that are a long ways out. However, it's a good step forward, especially for football, because the stars that bring in those millions of dollars will be able to make some of that. You think about players like Tebow, Trevor Lawrence, Zion Williamson, Reggie Bush, Joe Burrow, the Fabulous Five back in the day, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor when he was in college. All those guys would have been able to earn tons of money when they were in college, and they weren't able to earn anything. Reggie Bush famously got punished and got all of his records and Heisman taken away because he took a few $100,000 while he was in college. There's a huge debate of whether or not he should get that reinstated. I'll leave that up to the pros. However, the way that they're handling it, the way that the NCAA has not even really responded, said they will not not help at all. They won't even listen to Reggie Bush. I think it's a big deal. They should at least have some sort of discussion, probably in a professional court setting. But because that's not happening, I doubt Reggie's going to get any of that back. I would love to see him get it back just because he was probably, definitely top 5 all college athletes that I preferred watching and liked watching. Him and Vince Young, and I preferred them over Tebow. While I do think Tebow was a great player, watching them, it was just Reggie Bush was incredible. So I would like to see him get it. I just don't see him getting it. However, great sign. Even Pat McAfee mentioned on his show he would have been charging $50 for autographs, would have made some money, been able to pay for his kegs, pay for drinks at parties, been able to buy things for his buddies with that. Even with that little bit amount of money, it does go a long way, especially for guys that might not make the pros. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I saw some guys were charging $10,000 an hour, $1,000 an hour already. That's gonna change, I think. I mean, there might be people willing to pay it. It'll be interesting. It'll be fun to hear, oh, this player made, Spencer Rattler, for example, or Bo Nix, one of those guys, made $300,000 and the season hasn't started, or halfway through the season, which players have made the most. I think you're going to be seeing that in the media, because since it's the first year, it's going to be a big deal, and it's probably going to be a big deal for a few more years that they're going to want to keep track of it. But when in the end you think about it, and there's coaches making millions, the schools are making multiple millions. The players still aren't being compensated for what they're bringing in. However, they're getting compensated in a sense that they should be, and I'm very, very happy for them. Not only represent your school, but represent yourself, build a brand, and I believe that's very important. Another big sports news, Sha'Cari Richardson. Sha'Cari Richardson was banned because she tested positive for marijuana, and it's the Olympics, so it's not a United States issue here. This is a World Olympics Committee issue. Some people might not view it as an issue. She broke the rule, and then the rule was in state. So yes, even if you disagree, and it is a stupid rule, I agree it is a stupid rule, she did break the rule. I don't like the fact that she was punished for it. I think it's something that they need to have a discussion with. However, it is a big deal because there are parts of the world that have a lot different views than the United States view of it. And yeah, I don't know. I think athletes should be able to blaze up if they want to. There's no reason. Doesn't hurt them. If anything, it helps their recovery. If that's, I saw that as an argument. Oh, well, people were saying that it doesn't increase their performance. It's not a performance enhancing drug. No, but it is a recovery enhancing drug. Okay, well, if it's a recovery enhancing drug, shouldn't all the athletes be prescribed it or told they are encouraged for it? I just think that argument is stupid. I think it does help with joint pain, muscle pain, and that sort of thing. So people should be for it if it was allowed. But because it's not allowed, she even said in an interview she knew that it was something she shouldn't have done. So when it's all said and done, it was a rule that she broke. She's punished for that rule. She's facing a consequence. But just because I'm saying that that's what's happening doesn't mean I have to agree with it. And I would love if they could put her in the 100 meter. She'll be able to still do relays, and she's going to kill it because she's going to be running even harder. But when you have one of the fastest people in the world not allowed to do the race, you're taking the best player in a sport, or one of the best players in a sport, and telling them, nope, you can't be in here. So I don't like that. We'll move on from that. That one we might get some feedback for, but we need to rethink that, especially as the Olympic Committee. They got to rethink it. So another big thing today is July 4th. I'm recording this on the 4th of July. Joey Chestnut beat his record, 76 hot dogs. Joey Chestnut is the greatest athlete of all time. Go ahead and fight me on that. Joey Chestnut is the best athlete of all time. We should all be able to bask in this moment, witness greatness. It is better than watching LeBron. It is better than watching Michael Jordan. This is the best athlete you have ever seen in their field. Joey Chestnut is the king, will be king, and always forever is king. So we love you, Joey. Congratulations. Awesome. And Nathan's hot dog, the coverage was terrible. Unfortunately, the feed was terrible if you did watch it. However, Joey did it. For those that missed it, Joey beat his own record. He has now won, I think it's 14 out of 15 times he has won the last 15 competitions. He's won 14 of them. Just think about that in any other sport. 14 out of the last 15. Yes, it's only like one major event every year. That's the one Super Bowl, but come on. 14 out of 15. Joey Chestnut, greatest athlete ever. You should want your kids to be like Joey Chestnut. And then the halfway point of sports is, I mentioned last time, halfway between video games and sports of this podcast, Madden. We'll move in from the greatest athlete of all time to one of the best-selling sports games of all time. Madden unlocked or unloaded their information of the advantages that you get, home field advantages in certain games. I'm not going to go over all of them. If you are interested, it's on their Twitter, it's on Madden.com, so go ahead and check it out. EA Sports released Home Field Advantages, which is a new feature in Madden that each stadium has different advantages based on where you're playing. I'm just going to go over a few that I wrote down because they are either way stronger than every other team for some reason, or there's actually something unique. Because there are a lot of teams that have the shared advantage, like reduced fatigue, increased fatigue for reduced team fatigue for the home team, increased fatigue for the away team, that sort of thing. Some teams get both of those, some teams got one. It's a little unbalanced, a little unfair, especially for the smaller teams. Coming from a Vikings fan, I like all the teams in the NFL, by the way. I'm a sports fan. I want to watch good games. However, being a Vikings fan, they get increased speed in the red zone. They get a slightly boosted increased speed rating, which, yeah, that's great. Maybe that'll make the halfback toss worth it in the red zone, or slant routes and drag routes will be overpowered. It might turn out that way. I'm going to guess it's only a 1 or 2 boost in speed, so I think it's kind of disappointing. However, the Browns and the Steelers have the same one, which is you have a chance for a hot route to fail, or the player on the away team, the receiver, if you try to switch in hot route, they might fail, and you'll either have to do it again, and then there's a potential that they won't know their route. So I think that's pretty interesting, that's pretty accurate. However, the Bills were listed as like a windy situation, which last year the Browns stadium made news like 3 weeks in a row for how windy it was, and people are impressed by Baker Mayfield being able to throw in the wind, and kicking is so difficult. Well, the team that's called the Windy City, like, I get that the Bills have a windy stadium, but I think the Browns and the Bills should swap. I think the Browns should have the windy situation, and then the Bills should have the hot route. You can even say that somebody jumps on a table or is waving a big purple you-know-what around, and that's distracting the hot route, and then that's why they don't know it. Like, make a comment like that to show the actual Buffalo fans, as opposed to the Bills just have a windy stadium. Like, just, that one I thought I wanted to call out, because the Browns should be the windy one, and that makes more sense. And the Bills, with their fans, should be the distracting fans that the wide receiver gets confused at. The Bengals, I love. I wish more teams had this one, which is why the Bengals are so cool. I'm probably going to do at least one Bengals season. They have less of a runoff time on no huddle, which is, if it's a close game and you run no huddle, you, instead of running 13 seconds off the clock, you're running 7 seconds. Like, that is a huge difference. I don't know how much of the reduced, but it's a reduced no huddle time runoff, and I think that's going to be a big help for the Bengals. The Saints, on 3rd and 4th down, a random receiver will always run the wrong route on the opposing team. That is insane. Like, you have a 4 wide receiver set, which is extremely common now. Even the double tight end, and both are running routes. Like, on one of the tight ends could be running back out of the backfield, could be one of the wide outs, the X and Y. They're always, on 3rd and 4th down, they're always going to run the wrong route. That's going to be hard for user versus user. That's going to be hard for user versus computer. Helps level the playing field. It's a really strong mechanic, though. Not sure how I feel. However, it is really strong, kind of fun. The Falcons gain momentum. One of the new features, momentum, that builds up over the game. Falcons gaining on every single play. That is crazy. So Falcons should be really fun on a rebuild situation. Get rid of Matt Ryan. You have Julio, like, keep Calvin Ridley and a couple of their strong defenders. Every offensive play, I believe it was, they get increased momentum. So you're going to have high-scoring games every time against the Falcons, which is fun and accurate, especially after last year. The Cowboys have punts that the opposing team, if you punt it over the 50-yard line, the punt is a shortened distance. Famously, people getting automatic touchbacks because they were hitting the gigantic jumbotron that's in their stadium. They're referencing that if you're punting over the 50-yard line, it's going to be a shortened distance. I thought that was cool, different, unique. Titans can't get holding calls, or have a severely reduced chance of getting a holding call. Very strong. It's not people aren't called for holding often. However, now the Titans even less. So Titans will be strong on offense. The Colts, you'll always see on defense. You'll be able to see the offensive hat count. You'll be able to see all of their lineups, which no other team has that. That's incredible. Being able to know exactly what set they're in every time. Very strong. Chiefs, you cannot audible. There's a high chance of play changing or of play failing an audible. Also very strong. You have reduced stamina in the Bronco Stadium, so mile high makes a lot of sense. You have reduced. I used to live in Colorado for a few years. It was hard. I went from Minnesota where I could run a long ways, and when I went to Colorado, I would go on a short walk with my wife and I would be exhausted. So I like that one because it makes a lot of sense and I can relate to it. The Seahawks have it, but it's such a loud, obviously the 12s, it's such a loud stadium that actually when you check out your play, some of the lines are squiggly or going to be very hard to read. So if you don't memorize what play you selected or you try to make a change in the play, it'll be hard to read, difficult to read. Very, very fun. And then of course the EA franchise, or just Madden in general, love the Packers, and the Packers have like 5 or 6 different features of their home field. They gain more momentum for their home team, and the team that is going up against the Packers, the away team, will have a harder time changing direction. That's pretty ridiculous. That's a whole lot of things. That is genuinely a combination of like 4 separate teams all put onto one team. So Packers are the sweethearts again. That's my sour grapes of Minnesotan talking, as well as just truth. The Packers are always favored, and there's a new way of them getting favored. And now we can move on. That was sports and halfway point with Madden. Now we can have a good conversation about the nerd stuff. I entitled we were going to be talking more about in the future. First episode was heavy Madden. Loki episode 4, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. There we go. 3 times. If you still get spoiled and are mad about it, I gave you enough warning. Be mad. I don't care. I gave you warning. So, Mobius states at one point in the episode that the TVA has gone up against Kree, Titans, and Vampires. Those are the 3 they specified. Obviously, they've gone up against everything because they've gone through all of time. But why did they talk about those 3 specifically? I thought that was really fun. We've gone a lot about the Kree throughout the MCU. It was mentioned in Captain Marvel. It was in Guardians of the Galaxy. It's in Thor. Like, the Kree race is a huge deal. They're, in the comic books, they're one of the main combatants of the Skrulls. And the Skrulls, as we learned from WandaVision, as we've learned from more of the recent MCU movies, they're going to be a big deal. They're going to be prominent in the next phase of the MCU. But again, they did mention Kree, Titans, and Vampires. Korg, also mentioned in Thor 2, or it might have been Ragnarok, mentioned vampires there as well. So I think vampires with Morbius and Blade are going to also be talked about, which I think is why they mentioned it with Mobius, is because, hey, don't forget, vampires will be coming out. Morbius and Blade are going to be within the next year or 2. Remember, we have this. Here's some product information and all that. Is that a reference to Blade? I think so. I think that that's them promoting Blade and saying like, hey, we put vampires on the level of Titan and Kree, so this is going to be a difficult villain and a cool villain and one we're going to want to pay attention to. I think that's the message they're sending. I don't think that's just a small Easter egg. I don't think that's just a, hey, fleeting comment, blah, 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 blah. No, I think that's going to be talking about, that's definitely mentioning Blade. I hope it also means that they're talking with Morbius, because Sony and Marvel, Disney, constantly in talks due to Spider-Man, and they're, okay, here's a little bit of money here, let us use this product, here's a little bit of money here, let us use this product, please let us use Venom, please let us have Tom Holland, blah, 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 all that. I think it's also like, hey, let us use Jared Leto and Morbius, or at least let us reference those movies, and I think that's also part of it, and if not, I'm at least hoping. But yeah, I think it's about Morbius, and I think it's about Blade. Let's go into the Kree a little bit, because I think the Kree are very interesting. We've talked, Captain Marvel is part Kree, so she's a hybrid. So it is something important, because Captain Marvel 2 is going to be coming out. That's a big deal. They've already mentioned all the things that are going to be connected with Captain Marvel 2. And in order to know that, in order to truly grasp the full depth of the story, they are going to keep referencing. They mentioned Kree and Loki. Kree have a huge connection to Skrulls, and Kree have a big connection to Venom, because in one of the versions of the comics, Telkar is actually like where Venom comes from. Venom is a outcast of the symbiotes, and so he meshes with Telkar. Then they actually are able to control Venom and actually control the thought. So instead of Venom being the virus on the host Sha'Cari is just in full control and has the ability to morph like the Skrulls, and they infiltrate the Skrulls as Sha'Cari with Venom. So Kree, Skrull, Venom. Venom is a current popular concept or a discussion topic for Marvel. Kree has been a consistent one in the previous phase and probably will continue to be, especially with Captain Marvel and Photon from WandaVision. And then you also have Skrulls, which is going to be major primary focus. That's who Nick Fury is currently with, like at this moment that we know of. He's working with the Skrulls. It's going to be a big deal. So Kree, make sure to get to know the background of Kree. You also have Captain Atlas with Star Force, who is Minerva's partner. Minerva, who we saw get shot down. I don't believe we saw it confirmed Minerva's death. Again, Marvel, just a little reminder, death in Marvel is really not permanent. There's forms of resurrection, revival, multiverse, being able to pull them out of it. So just because a character has been killed doesn't mean they can't come back. Michael B. Jordan made a comment on that with Killmonger, that they should be able to bring Killmonger back if they wanted. So because of that, Minerva could be a big deal with Captain Atlas, who is a big connection to Captain Marvel. So we could see that coming in. Ronan and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy was the primary villain. Ronan the Accuser with Korath the Pursuer was also in Captain Marvel and Guardians of the Galaxy. All Kree. And just because they're all with all that Kree involved, the fact that it was mentioned in Loki, I think, is a big deal. People should talk about that. The vampire thing is what a lot of people are focusing on. I think that's a huge deal, but don't let the Kree thing slide under the rug, because those those alien Smurfs are going to be making their way back in one way or another. And then also Supreme Intelligence, Yon-Rogg, Sha'Cari, mentioned all them, or we can bring them up. Those are all Kree as well, and those are people. Yon-Rogg is Jude Law, so we've seen him. Supreme Intelligence we've seen, and Supreme Intelligence we know is still around. So probably will be in Captain Marvel 2 or a future movie, or something with Photon and Captain Marvel, maybe Captain Marvel 3 in the future. So we'll see more of them. And if Sony talks with Marvel go well, I mean, you have Sha'Cari as Venom with Sleeper, Venom's offspring, and the Skrulls all in one. There's the Titans that they mentioned, which is Thanos from Titan. We've seen him. We've seen a lot of him. And there's your Eternals connection. So connections to Venom, Morbius, Captain Marvel, WandaVision, Loki, Thor, Love and Thunder. We have connections to all of it, all mentioned in this one line by Mobius. Incredible. Needs more discussion. And not to mention, Morbius and Blade are famously have a rivaling partnership. So Sony and Marvel are going to probably want to work together with Morbius and Blade anyway. So with all that, it can all tie together, all thanks to Loki and just Mobius, this non-superhero character. Super cool. One last little thing, Morbius is also in the comics an ally of Doctor Strange and works with Doctor Strange 9 or 10 times. So it's a big deal. Morbius is a big deal, and all of that one line by Mobius is a huge deal. Another thing about like Mobius, a little just fun thing is, I think Mobius is from either the 80s or the 90s, and I do think he had a jet ski. I hope he had a jet ski, and I know that he's alive in this other like Mobius verse or wherever he is, but he had a jet ski, okay? Mobius verse. Also, young Sylvie is Judith in Walking Dead, and she's a great dramatic actor, but Mobius had a jet ski. I also want to know what made him and Sylvie variants. I think that's pretty interesting. I want to find out their backstory a little bit more, like what made them a variant. Another thing about Loki, Ravonna Renslayer, the judge, is an ally of Kang. We all know it. Kang's coming in. When's it gonna be? She has an on and off relationship with him. At one point, he sacrifices himself for her. At one point, he resurrects her because she died. So we don't know currently at the TVA. Maybe she's in the stasis that she was put in the comics. We don't know if maybe this is beyond the point where she's already taken over and she's ruling under the guise of Kang, or is this why she wanted Sylvie to prune her, because she's currently under the control and rule of Kang. So she's like, go ahead, prune me. Not only am I not really truly gonna die, but I won't be under the control of Kang. I think the biggest connection with Ravonna in the comics is Fantastic Four. She works with at one point she asked the Fantastic Four for help, and at one point the Fantastic Four helped defeat her with the Avengers. So that's a huge connection. We know Fantastic Four is in the works. Kevin Feige confirmed it's still gonna be a while for that. So there's a connection there. It might say that Ravonna, which the actor who plays Ravonna is incredible. She makes you really hate the character. Love that. I love when characters are, an actor can make you hate a character or love a character. And Ravonna is a character you hate. So I am fine if she sticks around for a long time and we see her with Kang timeline. We see her in Fantastic Four. I'm fine with all of that. There's also a major connection to the Grand Master, who we saw in Thor Love and Thunder. Ravonna has a major connection there because the Grand Master is what gives Kang the power to resurrect her. So we might see her in Thor Love and Thunder, or when Natalie Portman becomes Thor that we're expecting. When she gets her own solo movie, if she does, Ravonna might be in there as a villain. All those are potential things. There are a council of cross-time Kangs in the comics, which is very important because this is dealing with multiverses, the multiverse of madness, and Ravonna is least happy when she has to deal with the cross-time Kangs. So very cool, very important. So since she's more unhappy with the cross-time Kangs, we can think about the fact that right now with the TVA, that's dealing with multiple timelines, so that would make sense for Kang in the cross-time Kang's timeline of the comics, that sort of situation. It would make sense if that's the direction that they were going, or at least gain some inspiration from that. We might be able to see that there. So in the cross-time, with the cross-time Kang, and Ravonna's situation with Kang. Eventually, with the Grandmaster, Ravonna wins in that fight, and then she ends up being able to rule where Kang's kingdom. However, she gets bored, revives Kang, and then kills him again. It's just a really kind of messed up and back and forth timeline. I don't think they'll go that far, but that's just a little background on Ravonna and really how deep her story can go. So she may be a consistent character we see throughout. However, I do think that it's going to be more along the lines of she's currently in control, she's getting controlled by Kang, which is why she wanted to be pruned by Sylvie. And again, one last reminder, even if she would have been pruned, and in her first version of the comics, Kang was given the power by Grandmaster to resurrect her. Just another reminder that death in Marvel is not permanent, nor is it probably ever going to be considered permanent. We've had Loki die, and then we could have had and Ravonna in the comics was resurrected, and Loki was dead, and then he wasn't dead, and then Mobius we now know is dead but not really dead, and then Captain America had a time where they thought he would be dead, but he wasn't actually dead, he was just preserved. And then we had Loki, who at another time was dead but not really dead. So it's not permanent. Never think death in Marvel Universe is permanent. Just expect everyone to be potential to come back or be there. One fun thing that we saw in the episode with young Sylvie, or the portion of the episode with young Sylvie in the aura scanner, the bottom of it was scorched. And then in the background of the credit scene where Loki is there, we see the Avengers Tower, but the helipad is there, which means it's post Avengers, so which means it's more likely that it was an Ultron success than a Loki success world. I know that was like jumping around a little bit, but I'll try to make the connection here for you. In the credit scene, the Avengers Tower is destroyed, but because the helipad is there, which wasn't there in the original Avengers movie, Tony Stark hadn't put it there, we know it was post-Ultron. So we know that it was at least Ultron that made the success, and was either he succeeded in taking down the Avengers Tower and destroying New York, or it could have been Thanos being successful in destroying, or it could be a compilation of all the timelines that have been destroyed, and which is why there's so many buildings and they're all smushed together. The big theory is that it's Ultron who was successful. Well, with the scorched aura scanner with young Sylvie, that could be making a connection that it was maybe an alternate timeline of Ultron that had scorched in the scanner and caused the scorch mark to be there. Or it could just be because they told us at one point, if you're a robot, something could go wrong, and that was just a fun little thing they tossed in, like, yep, there's scorch marks here, that's what happens. I think it's more fun to think about that it was potentially an alternate form of Ultron that got scorched, but it could just be a fun little Easter egg. Thought I'd throw that one in there. And then back to the credit scene, there's Kid Loki, Gator Loki, Classic Loki, and then an unknown Loki that we saw there. We don't know who the fourth Loki is. But what we do know is that Mobius told Loki before, when he was in the time loop, that Loki could be anybody he wanted to be. He could even be somebody who does good. Well, in the comics, when Loki is converted into like a good guy, it's by classic Loki and Kid Loki. And with Mobius telling him that he could be a good guy, this could be the telling of the story of Loki becoming a good guy and Loki becoming a hero, not an anti-hero or a villain, Loki becoming a true hero, which would be a great timeline to see. I think it's a perfect little tie-in considering the way the fans feel about Loki and Tom Hiddleston. Yeah, I think that's the direction they're going. I think he's going to become a hero. It's kind of obvious, so it might not be what happens, but I do think that's the direction that they're heading in. And yeah, I think that's going to be it. That's going to wrap it up for the nerdy stuff now, and that's done with sports. We're just gonna get into some local news. I've mentioned before, I am from Minnesota, so this next portion will be all about some Minnesota things happening here. We'll also be throwing in some fun facts at the end. So first of all, the TCF Bank Stadium, that's where the Minnesota Gophers play football, was renamed to Huntington Bank Stadium because Huntington Bank purchased it. So the fun thing I think here is that it's $25 million. $25 million for naming rights to me seems cheap. While that is a lot of money, $25 million for constant advertising. It's not just for Gopher games. There's a gigantic sign for everybody that drives by, and it's mentioned on TV every time. So I feel like that money is easily earned back. I'm interested to see where that goes. Like, why was it only $25 million? How does that compare to professional stadiums or other college stadiums? I thought it was very interesting that Huntington Bank was able to get it for $25 million. There's not really any Timberwolves or Vikings news. There's a lot of people talking about the Timberwolves potentially trading for Ben Simmons. I don't want Ben Simmons. I don't think Ben Simmons makes the Timberwolves better. Where the Timberwolves struggle is getting to the playoffs, and once they're in the playoffs, getting far into the playoffs, Ben Simmons is going to be great in the regular season as a 10-point, 10-rebound, 10-assist player. He's basically a more athletic ball distributor who guards wings. Then he's a more athletic Draymond Green at this point in his career. He could be better, but he doesn't show a desire to want to shoot. Even then, comparing him to Draymond Green's probably a better shooter. So people want Ben Simmons. There's nobody that I'd want to give up for Ben Simmons. I saw some trades potentially for the Timberwolves and getting rid of Karl Anthony Towns. And I saw that some people were mocking Ben Simmons for 4 or 5 first-round picks, but then they were mocking Karl Anthony Towns for 2. If Ben Simmons is worth 4 first-round picks, Karl Anthony Towns is worth your stadium. So, there's not a ton of Timberwolves news that I think is actually legitimate. They're more likely to move on from Beasley. They're more likely to move on from D'Lo. They're definitely going to try to move on from Culver. I think J-Mac, Cat, and Ant are the only guys that are safe in terms of trading. Nobody is technically safe in any sport to not be traded, but you'd have to get a haul for most of those guys, and I don't see any of those guys moving. A lot of the people that I think fit the Timberwolves right now are on restricted contracts. Like, I think Lonzo Ball would be an incredible fit. He gives exactly what the Timberwolves are looking for, but he is a restricted free agent that I do not think they will let him go. They'll probably match most contracts given to him, so I don't think that'll work. I think Julius Randle and Miles Turner are good fits. I really don't see them moving for the price that the Timberwolves would want. But with a new owner, we could see some big moves being made. So, here's hoping that they make some big moves and that it's not moving the entire team to Seattle. If it is, it's the second basketball team to leave. Wouldn't be surprised, but it'd be cool to see the Sonics back. Vikings, nothing super big except for Bashad Breeland apparently had a few times he was burned in practice. I still think he's going to be a great player, and I'm not worried about that at all. It's just training camp. It's not anything to be concerned about unless you start hearing about consistent issues. Harrison Hand is potentially going to be playing safety alongside Harrison Smith. So you got the 2 Harrisons in the back. That would be pretty cool considering the Vikings already have the only 2 Dalvins, I believe, in the entire NFL. So pretty fun to have 2 Harrisons, 2 Dalvins, and it's just a little fun thing. I think Harrison Hand has a lot of potential to be great zone coverage, and so him being in safety with his good ball skills and zone coverage seems like a good fit, and I think it'll help his development considering they said he was a little behind as a corner last year. That's it for Vikings and Timberwolves. If there's anything else, please let me know, or anything you want to hear about them. With training camp, I can definitely talk to you about that. I do research all through the week, so I'm happy to give you some more on that if you're interested. The last little thing about Minnesota news here is the Minnesota State Fair is coming back now. We hit our 70% vaccination, so the state fair will be wide open, and they announced some new foods. And I personally, I was gonna be a chef. I had a couple cooking scholarships when I was going out of high school. Decided not to pursue those, but I still love cooking and cook every day. So I'm gonna give you some of the new foods coming to the Minnesota State Fair that I'm very excited for. So the company Sausage Sister and Me, they are coming out with a banh mi bowl, which instead of banh mi, it's banh min like Minnesota, and it's a Vietnamese dish that has sausage, sriracha, pickled carrots on a baguette with some radishes and jalapeno. I think that sounds amazing. I love spicy food. The sausage and the jalapeno with pickled carrots, I think the acid will cut through that spice. That sounds amazing and delicious. There's the Giggles Campfire Grill is gonna have bison bites, which is just ravioli stuffed with mushrooms, fennel, and a sweet bourbon sauce. And the bourbon sauce apparently has a little kick to it, so you can take the ravioli, which is fried, and you dip it in the bourbon sauce. Whew. I love bison. It's not quite gamey, but it's still like a rich, lean flavor. So definitely going to try those out. Sarah's Tipsy Pies. There's going to be a blue raspberry blitzed, which is a hand pie that has raspberry, blueberries, and apple with a UV blue vodka sauce and topped with candy cane sugar. I'm not a fan of UV blue, so I probably won't be having this one. Just I don't know, it just makes me want to get sick. Reminds me of when I was buying cheap alcohol, and it sounds too sweet, too much gut rot for me. Get rid of the UV blue and I'd probably share that with someone. The Blue Barn is having a buffalo chicken biscuit, which is a handmade biscuit with chicken, and it is glazed with sweet and spicy buffalo and bacon bits. So that one sounds pretty traditional bar food, but delicious. The Blue Moon Dine-In Theater. So fun little story about the Blue Moon Dine-In Theater. When I was a kid, went to the State Fair with my parents, and my mom and dad wanted some beers at the Blue Moon Dine-In Theater, and we were watching some music. My dad walks up to the diner, or where you order, and goes, "Yeah, could I get 2 Miller Lights, please?" And they're saying, they're like, do you know where you are? So he tried to order another beer company, and he completely had a little brain fart. And I always laugh at that story and think of that story because it's just, he didn't mean to be funny. I found it funny, and the guy behind the counter thought he was just being an a-hole. And yeah, I always think about that. But anyway, they're brought back a caramelized banana pudding. It is topped with like a cocoa puff cereal, like a puffed rice chocolate cereal. It's exactly what it sounds like, caramel, vanilla pudding with bananas and caramel and stuff. There's the Midtown Global Market, which is a set of a bunch of different places. Andy's Garage, which is a brand new vendor, is having a chori pop, which is a chorizo corn dog with avocado salsa or mole to dip it in. I love mole. I think it's like that sweet, spicy tartness that you want in like everything. So I am gonna absolutely try this, and yeah, I suggest you try that one, because if you've never had mole before, try making it yourself. It's not too difficult. Or go to like a traditional like Spanish restaurant or Mexican restaurant, and then it's amazing. At Coasters, they are coming out with a Cracklin' Prime Nachos, which are chicharrones covered in prime rib with nacho cheese, pico de gallo, and green onion. Chicharrones are not great for you, which most of the food at State Fair is going to stick to your ribs, but the chicharrones are delicious. I want to make sure I bring a group of people with me when I go to the State Fair, and we split those, because it's going to be rich, salty, delicious, spicy, the perfect thing that you're looking for. As long as it's not too hot, I think that's going to be one of my top favorite ones that I try. The Farmers Union Coffee Shop is coming out with a cucumber jalapeno limeade, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a limeade with cucumbers and like a jalapeno syrup. I think that sounds a little processed, like it's going to taste very processed, so I might try somebody else's if they order it just to see, and then if I like it, I'll get my own. Lulu's Public House is bringing the dual berry shortcake, which is just a handmade biscuit covered in a bunch of different berries. Pretty simple, but probably going to be pretty good. The Midtown Market again has Los Ocampi, which is going to have equites, which is a Mexican street corn, or equites, Mexican street corn, and then it has cotija cheese, and chile powder, which I love Mexican street corn. and it's something you can eat as you're walking, which is a huge deal with the state fair. That one sounds really good. I think that one's going to be really popular, whether I try it or not. I think a lot of people are going to like that one. Minnesota Wine Country, always stop by there because they have a batter, like or a platter of wines you can try, and you can like get a sample of a few and have a whole bunch of different wines to taste, which is very fun. This year they are adding strawberries and fudge brownies all dipped in a wine-infused dark chocolate, drizzled with a wine-infused white chocolate. So you got the tart, bitter, dark with the super sweet synthetic white chocolate with strawberries and fudge. I think that's going to be incredible, fantastic. Whatever word you want to use, that sounds like something that I would sit down, like when you're ready to, I've been walking all day, sit down in the shade. That's what you want, is Minnesota Wine Country, fudge, strawberry, dipped in wine-infused chocolate. Dino's, Euro place. It's a Greek restaurant. They, I believe they are at most fairs. They added a Greek stuffed ravioli, which has tzatziki sauce, cream cheese, mozzarella, pepperoncini, and Euro meat dipping in garlic butter. Sounds really delicious. Sounds like something my wife's really, she loves Greek food, and all Mediterranean food. I don't know if I'm gonna have it. I'm not a huge fan of like restaurants and chains. I like the like more mom and pop places, and I might try my wife's because I'm sure she'll get them, but they sound good. They're just not really my thing. I love lamb and I love like Euro meat like that, but I think it'll be more up my wife's alley. The hanger is going to have an island hopper, which is half of a pineapple, hollowed out, has teriyaki chicken served with rice and pineapple chunks. I think that sounds delicious. It sounds very sweet with chicken, but people have orange chicken and love it. People are going to love the pineapple chicken and teriyaki. Fluffy's Head Canned Cut Donuts is going to have a jumbo donut sundae. Sounds like exactly how it sounds. It is a new vendor again. Sounds amazing. I always try to try the new vendors because then it gives them a good sense of whether or not they should stay in business or stay at the state fair. And, you know, they're the most hungry. They want to make the best product and they want you to come back every year, so they usually have a really good food. Hot Indian is having Kerala fried chicken with a kati roll, which is a chicken with on a flatbread, chutney, and a slaw. Pretty simple Indian food. I guess not simple. It's a pretty clear cut. Everything is pretty clear cut. You can see everything you're eating. So I'm excited for that one. I like Indian food a lot, so I think that one's going to be really good. Another one, most of these, it's sharing food. I prefer stuff that you can walk easily. That one seems like one you might want to sit down for. Hot Indian also is having paneer pakara, which is going to have paneer cheesecakes with tomato butter. I think that'll be pretty good. That seems like more easy to eat along as you walk. That'll be good. Mancini's al fresco is going to have a la ferrette, which is cauliflower with herbs and a sweet chili sauce. And it comes in like a little handheld case, so you can eat it as you walk. Sweet chili sauce is amazing, and cauliflower is a good substitute for people that are vegetarian or vegan. So that's a really good option, and I think most people, especially the vegetarian and vegan crowd, are going to be all for that. RC Barbecue is having a naughty biscuit, which is a smoked pork belly with beer cheese sauce, pickled onions, and candied jalapenos. Obviously, that sounds delicious. It's barbecue food, so if you like that heavy, rich food, that's perfect. Pork belly is super salty. Pickled jalapeno is spicy and acidic, or a pickled onion, and then candied jalapenos are sweet and spicy, and then the pickled onion is very acidic. So you get the full palate, and that sounds amazing. The Nordic Waffles is having a chicken and macaroni waffle and an ice cream waffle. Not ice cream, like ah! So you can have the chicken and macaroni, which has drizzled in honey, and the ice cream waffle is ice cream with kettle corn and some other things. It's a little too much sweetness for me when it's already like a sweet waffle, but I love chicken and waffles, so I'll probably try that one out. Green Mill, another chain, so I probably won't try it out, but they are having a Pizza Lucy, which they say it's like, a beef patty stuffed inside their pizza. It's basically a calzone with sausage patty, pepperoni, and mozzarella cheese. So it's pretty much just a calzone with a fancy name. The Scenic 61 by the Scenic Cafe is having a sashimi tuna taco, which has ahi tuna, avocado, soy, Thai slaw, peanut dressing, pickled ginger, and wasabi on a wonton taco. This is a new vendor, and it sounds like a very in-depth dish you'd get at a restaurant, but it seems like you can still eat it because it's like in a wonton taco. So that one I highly recommend. It's new. They're going to be they're excited to make it. This is the first time they're doing it. State Fair is back. it's just one of those ones. I starred it. Scenic 61, Scenic Cafe, sashimi tuna taco. I'll have one, my wife will have one. I don't know if I'm going to share that one because it just sounds too good. Hideaway Speakeasy is having their sidecar sandwich, which is a cognac-infused bacon with citrus marmalade, Havarti, Gouda, aged cheddar on a sourdough. So 3 different types of cheeses and a cognac bacon. Like, bacon is the primary meat and protein in the sauce, and then it's basically cheese. It's a little too rich for me. That's one of those ones I would want to split with, like, multiple people. If you ate one by yourself, I don't know how much you'd want to eat anything else, but it does sound like something you'd want to eat. Oh, like a guilty pleasure day, like on the day that The Rock tries to eat 20,000 calories or whatever he does, he could eat 2 of those and he's probably there. But of course, it's 3 types of cheese and bacon, so you can't really go wrong with that. The funnel cake stand now has s'more flavored funnel cakes, so if you like s'mores, marshmallow chocolate, check that out. Marshmallows, my wife's not a big fan, so I probably won't be hitting that one up. Potato Man is having Spuffle Puffs, which are mashed sweet potatoes with sweet cream cheese fried in a puffy dough, dusted with powdered sugar and maple dipping sauce. That sounds like a dessert that has sweet potato in it, so you think that you're eating something that's good for you, but you really know you're not. It sounds really delicious, if I'm being honest. I think a lot of people love when you get like a sugary side. Like, people love marshmallow with sweet potato. That's a really common thing, and caramel with sweet potato and maple syrup with sweet potato. So I think that one's going to be really popular. Yeah, I think you're going to, when you walk around, you're going to see a lot of people with it. The Summer Lake beverages are going to have a wedge hammer, a lake straw lemonade, and a Bama lemonade sweet tea. So check that one out. They're all mocktails, so if you need something to drink, those are all 3 ones that you can definitely check out. Again, that's Summer Lake beverage. And last is Andy's Grill is having a new waffle burger, which is a bacon cheeseburger with maple infused candied waffles and a side of maple syrup to dip your cheeseburger in. I love the sweet and savory. I think the only thing that's missing is something spicy. Like, if you had some pickled jalapenos on there, or maybe pickled habaneros would be really good, or some just Thai chili sauce or like Thai chilies mixed in that maple syrup. That would make it a perfect thing to eat. I think overall it'd hit all your palates. It'd make you crave more because you get the sugar and the spice. But I think with a candied waffle bun, just adding that, like, that makes my mouth water. I think that's something that, if out of all these things, there's a few, I probably could have like a top 3 there. That one's in there. I definitely want to try that one out. Have to split it either into quarters or halves with somebody, because that's a lot of sugar. I just wish it had something spicy so that it didn't feel like I was eating so much. Lastly, now that we're all done with that, let's get into these fun facts. It is July 4th, so Americans actually eat 150 million hot dogs on July 4th on average. That would go from laid end to end to DC to Los Angeles 5 times and then a little bit more. That is a long way of hot dogs. Joey Chestnut could eat that in a day. Bet on that. Joey Chestnut could eat it by himself. The Declaration of Independence was actually not signed until August, so we celebrate on July 4th, but it wasn't signed until August, and the part of the bill to gain independence was actually done on July 2nd. We celebrate on the 4th because that's the date on there, but it wasn't signed till August, and the actual date for independence was July 2nd. Fun little facts here. Happy 4th of July. Hope you had a safe weekend. This will probably come out either on the 4th or the 5th, so hope you had a great weekend. I'm excited for the NBA playoffs. I'm excited. We got video here, so now you can see me talking to you. I'm so happy that you came here to listen to me. And we have this Thursday, I'll be recording a new episode with my co-host. He'll be here. We'll get some new information in. I got a whole list of topics I've been researching for that, and we'll have a lot to talk about. Very excited. Black Widow comes out on Saturday. Definitely will be watching that. We'll be talking about that in a future episode. New Loki episode out on Wednesday. We'll be talking about that. Got some NFL news. There's a whole lot. I'm very excited. So glad you came here to listen. Go out there, make a difference. Thank you.